Welcome in, Irish fans. It is Friday, November 22nd. Tomorrow, Notre Dame plays Army, the Black Knights, at Yankee Stadium. It's also the 100th anniversary of the Four Horsemen game, which happened in October 100 years ago. But that doesn't mean that we won't expect the same results, which is a big Notre Dame W. All right, so how is that going to happen? Well, first of all, we have to see continued improvement from the quarterback game. Riley Leonard, a little bit, lackluster here and there last weekend on the passing game. And I mean, he threw both the best pass of his season last year and quite possibly one of the worst passes of his season last year. He threw one up, which, up and behind the receiver in the end zone. If we play against a team that's got a better secondary, that's a touchback in the end zone. Probably not going back the other way because it's in the middle of the field and you've got plenty of guys that can kind of defend that, but you never really know, right? So the last thing you want is a 105-yard interception return for a touchdown because you threw behind a guy. That being said, he stepped into one that got called back for, that went for a touchdown and got called back on a penalty, on a bad penalty, might I add. Again, right? Best pass of the season that he's thrown so far. Right on the money, guy running a post route, just absolutely beautiful. So hopefully he's been in on the practice field getting extra reps in with the wide receivers while the coaches have been out, taking some of that advice that he's gotten from the coaching staff during the course of practice and saying, hey, I need 200, 300, 500, 800 extra reps, and getting some of those guys on the practice squad to come in and say, look, you want to get better, I want to get better. Hopefully they're doing that together. Do I know? No, I have no idea. But hopefully that's what's going on. So what's Army going to do? What are we going to see from Army that is going to be different from what we've seen for the rest of the season? Well, Army's offense this year is a lot like Navy's offense has been in previous years. It's also a lot like Army's offense has been in previous years. Their running game has been really good this year. Now, their pass completion percentage is 57%. They've only thrown 51 passes all season. That's not their game. That's not the game that we're going to see. We're going to see triple option over and over again. They're going to try to run it down our throat. They average 5 yards a carry. So there's some simple math there if you're a football person, right? You need 3.5 yards per carry for a first down. If they're averaging 5 yards per carry, they're getting a lot of first downs, and that's why they're scoring a lot of points. And they're averaging somewhere over 30 points per game per season. Now, have they seen a defense as good as Notre Dame's? No, they really haven't. And Notre Dame has only given up 14 points, 2 touchdowns to one team outside of garbage time. And I say this over and over again, but they've only done that outside of garbage time with one team, and that was UGA. Navy did it in garbage time, and Virginia did it last week in garbage time. Right, calling timeouts, inside the 20 with 45 seconds to go, so that they could put 7 more on the board, just so that they could say that they put up 14 against Notre Dame, which was, it's kind of ridiculous. That's the kind of stuff that gets your players hurt. And sorry, actually, Georgia Tech didn't do it. They did it in garbage time. Navy did it. That's the kind of stuff that gets your players hurt. So is it worth it? I don't think so. I think you keep your guys healthy. You go on, you move on to another day, and you keep your players healthy. That's what I think you do. But I'm not getting paid big bucks to coach, so it doesn't really matter what I think. Run game is going to be crucial. Army's going to see a lot of single high coverage, a lot of corners and safeties left on islands, with no safety help. So the cornerbacks are going to have to do a good job. Leonard Moore, Christian Gray, those guys are going to have to absolutely just knock it out. Xavier Watts is probably going to get stuck in one-on-one coverage. Rod Hurd's probably going to get stuck in one-on-one coverage a lot. And that's what opens up Navy to be such a great scoring offense, is that they know that if we sell out, if our safeties sell out or our corners sell out on that triple option and they start doing it too consistently, they can throw the ball over the top. And they've got a good quarterback that can do it. And, the quarterback rating for for this quarterback is 82.8, which is not terribly high. But if you look at his if you look at the number of yards that he's put up on very few passes this season, he's got 644 passing yards on 30 completions. So he's averaging 20 plus yards per pass. If you're giving up 20 yards passing, that's you can't do that over and over again and win football games. And that's part of what Army's recipe for success has been this season. So that's what we've got to defend. And we're going to see Watts and Hurd and Moore and Gray just, out there by themselves. They cannot take risks and give up on the passing game until after the ball crosses the line of scrimmage. They cannot give up on the passing game until after the ball crosses the line of scrimmage. Not even if they're, really not even if they're being blocked downfield. Because that doesn't always get called. So those are some of the things that we're going to have to be wary of. And of course, we're going to have to, worry about some of these like mesh and rub routes and things like that that'll open up lanes, because the defense or the offense is going to know that we're going to be in single high coverage or in man-to-man coverage across the board with or without the single high safety. Anyway, overall, this game ought to be an Irish win. You can go out there and look at all the percentages and analytics and all that other kind of stuff, and some of them have like a 90% chance or something like that for Notre Dame to win. We can't walk into this game thinking it's a given. We've already done that against NIU. We got to know that this team's going to come in and play us tough. They want to beat us. If you've seen any of the chat on social media, the amount of trash talk from the Army Black Knights fans, this is probably the first time I've ever seen chatter from the Army teams on social media, ever. They got something to prove. It is their Super Bowl. It better be ours, because we got to win. If the Irish win out, all the analytics systems out there give Notre Dame a 91 or better % chance of hosting a home game in December for the playoff, and a 99% chance of making the playoff. I don't know what keeps them from making the home game situation, but my guess is it's if IU wins against Ohio State this weekend. But I can't fathom what that would be. And honestly, it would probably have to be IU winning the game against Ohio State this weekend and beating Oregon. Because then I think Oregon slides in front of Notre Dame as a one-loss team to IU. And you've got IU as the 1 through 4 spot, and you've got Oregon sitting in front of Notre Dame in the overall rankings. It's the only way I can imagine it happening. Now, again, I'm not an analytics expert, and I have no idea what the college playoff committee is going to decide. But if I was sitting in that room, that would be the mindset. We'll get straight to the score prediction. So, again, we talked about nobody's put up more than 14 points on Notre Dame outside of scores in garbage time, with the exception of Navy. Now, I think Army's offense, honestly, is as good or better than Navy's. I think Notre Dame's defense, especially the rushing defense, has improved over the course of the season, despite the fact that we've lost Benjamin Morrison. And we've got a few other key injuries. Howard Cross is expected to be able to play this weekend, but he's still questionable. So if we can't get penetration into the backfield, and if we can't continue to stop this, if we can't stop this triple option, there's, a factor for Army being able to put more than 14 points on the board. If our passing game hasn't improved over the course of the season, now Army hasn't seen a lot of big passing games, and they certainly haven't seen running backs like Jardarian Price and Jeremiah Love. I can throw Riley Leonard in there as well because he's always a running threat. In fact, he's a better running threat than he is a passing threat. So if I take all of that and I add Williams in, who's going to probably get some touches this weekend as well, I think Notre Dame can put up 31, 35. Heck, they could probably put up more as long as we don't stall on too many drives and as long as we take advantage of any turnovers that we get, which I anticipate will be a lot fewer than normal because the ball's not going to move through the air, and I don't think they're going to put the ball on the ground 6 times like Navy did. Uncharacteristic of an academy team, of a military academy team. So, what is it? Is it 31? Is it 35? Is it 42? I think it's 31. And I think Army puts up 14. I think they put up a legitimate 14. It might be 17. They might go and decide to kick a field goal in garbage time, or maybe they kick a field goal earlier and decide to go score a touchdown in garbage time. Because as we know, every team that plays Notre Dame hates Notre Dame. And they all want to put up as many points as possible despite the fact that the game's already over. I don't expect to get any extra respect out of this team than we have from any other teams this season. Now, everyone, or a lot of people have talked about Notre Dame running up the score on some of these teams. I don't think Notre Dame's running up the score at all. I think Notre Dame's got a point to prove because if we don't score on these teams, the selection committee looks at it and says, well, all right, they gave up, or they're not as good a team as we thought they were. Everybody looks at the analytics. Heck, I have to look at the analytics. This is not a we do it by feel situation. Go out there and prove that you're one of the best teams in college football. One of the ways that you do that is by putting up the numbers. So 31-14 is my final score prediction for this game. And if we go above that at all, it's because we've outperformed ourselves. And I think we can outperform ourselves. Frankly, I'd love to see it happen. We'll see what happens this weekend. That's all I've got. As always, go Irish, beat Army, and hopefully I'll see you on Sunday for a post-game breakdown. Love y'all. Keep looking up. God bless. Go Irish.